Hey, my name's Cam, welcome back to Rogue's Roll Call. I make videos about D&D, so if you love Dungeons & Dragons like I do, then please do stick around. So recently I was binging videos from Crow's Perch. Great channel, highly recommend. Jacob makes fantastic videos talking about RPG horror stories. I had to take a look at the page for myself, and there's just no way I can't talk about some of the ones I found because wow. I'm not going to do videos like this too often, I'm not trying to steal Jacob's shtick, but I do think it'll be fun to do every now and then. Maybe just look at some of the stories in the community, not just horror stories, but stories of games going really well as well, and just chat about it. So with that in mind, if you have had any horrible D&D experiences, tell me about them in the comments and maybe I'll talk about it in another video. Family D&D night ends in shambles. My stepdad spent about a week making this world, only for it to be ruined by the murder hobo, which is my brother, and my honestly didn't seem interested mum. He later sent me this heartbreaking message. Well, that's probably my last venture into D&D. I worked really hard trying to make it fun for everyone, and when everyone leaves the table mad, upset, and irritated, it hurts. I feel like I just spent a lot of time to ruin everyone's day. It isn't your fault, DM. I enjoyed the world building you did. If bro wasn't murder hobo-y, then I wouldn't leave upset at least. If it weren't for the party, I would come for the next session. That is legitimately heartbreaking to read. Not only because sad dads is like just a remarkably upsetting thing in itself already, but because I'm sure a lot of other DMs can kind of sympathize with that moment when you're running a game. Definitely not the same thing as what has happened here, but I remember the first time when I was DMing and a player character died, and it was especially tragic because that player character died to the last enemy, and the last enemy had 2 hit points, and at the time I as the DM could have just said that that last enemy died as well. It was 2 hit points, but I didn't see it going this horribly. But anyway, that last enemy happened to get some very, very good rolls, like a crit hit on its attack, on its last dying attack against one of the player characters who happened to be pretty low on health, and she had some very bad rolls against the saving throws for the extra poison damage. And it just stacked and it stacked, and it ended up being like an insta-kill. The damage surpassed both her remaining health and her max HP, so that's dead. And it was the first time it had happened, and they were all telling me it was okay and all that, but I could tell she was pretty upset about the circumstances that led there, and not in an angry at me way, but just mad at circumstance itself, but it felt horrible. It's not a good feeling seeing people walk away from the table upset. The point of the game is to have fun. And yeah, character death does have to be something that is there, and it has to be a risk, otherwise there's no challenge, no point, and no tension. But it was my first time that had happened, and it was just didn't feel good. In this case, however, it sounds like the poor guy just had something he wanted to share with his family, and he put a lot of work into it, and the other people just kind of crapped all over it. If you end up playing a session of D&D only because someone that you care about asked you to and it's important to them, it's completely fine after the session to just be like, it isn't really for me, but I appreciate all the effort you put in. But to just jump up on the table, squat down, spread your cheeks, and just dump all over it like that is just, it's disgusting. It's really sad. This is the kind of stuff that genuinely ruins the experience for people and stops them from ever coming back, so it's sad. I am playing a female character. The DM had an NPC hit on me. I made it clear that my character was not interested on multiple occasions. I missed a session and was told my character slept with that NPC and will have to make a check to see if I'm pregnant. I'm furious. That is I think this one legitimately, no hyperbole whatsoever, I think this is legitimately the worst D&D experience I've heard. That's disgusting. That's really gross. That's just, it just it gives me the heebie-jeebies, like it makes my skin crawl. That's so creepy. I asked if he was serious and he said yes. I told him it was wrong to do that to someone's character. He said something about alcohol being involved and left. I'm planning to quit the campaign. Absolutely quit the campaign. That DM sounds like a creep. Is there any way to take away more of your player's choice agency than forcing like a pregnancy on them? As a DM, it's not your job to have fun, it's your job to make sure the players have fun. So close, like this is the perfect example of a piece of advice that is so wrong and so correct at the same time. Yeah, it's your job to make sure the players have fun, but unless you're getting paid to do this in a professional sense, you're meant to have fun too as a DM. Like, it's a game. Everyone at the table is a player. Like, in a very technical sense, the DM is also a player. I'm not even gonna harp on that because it's really obvious how silly this is. Hey, what are you doing? Howdy, trying to find a wireless trigger for my camera's speed light. What are you wearing? It's weird thing to say. No, for real though. After much contemplating, I've decided that Fnord is going to succumb to his curse. What exactly does that mean? Well, I wasn't sure which direction I wanted to go with when I had it enter you, but I like the outcome so far, and the rolls I had you make I decided would give you a fighting chance to resist. I can't give you a whole lot of details on what exactly the curse does, but essentially, Fnord is mine now, so it means make a new character. Oh, well, that's super lame. I have some ideas with the character I'm going to pursue, which I think would make for some good storytelling. I feel like my character effectively dying to a single failed save without myself or the party having a chance to fight it is a really lackluster way for me to lose him. Okay, so essentially what's happened here is just that like the DM has stolen someone's character based on one, from what they're saying here, one failed save for what seems to be entirely like storytelling purposes. Personally, I think that no player's character should be at risk of dying with a single roll of the dice outside of combat. That just feels like a massive kick in the balls to a player who potentially has been playing that character for a very long time. Having them do one like saving throw and then just the character's gone. Like yeah, I don't like it. Especially in this case where the character's not even just going to be gone. The DM has said, essentially, Fnord is mine now. I have some ideas with the character I'm going to pursue. It's not your character, bro. Like, it's the players. You can't just be like,
and it's gone.
I think what this is that red flag thing that a lot of people talk about with DMs, where they literally just want to tell their story, their ideas and their story, and the players are just kind of there as an audience rather than an active participating part of it. D&D is collaborative storytelling. It's not the DM telling a story and the players are there to experience it. It is meant to be collaborative. Everyone is telling the story together. DMs like this need to just go off and like write a book, which is fine. If you have a story you want to tell and you have a very specific way for how that story needs to play out, just write a book. There's nothing wrong with that, but you know, don't steal your players' characters, man. What the hell? I feel so disrespected as a DM by my players. I've really wanted to go on a rant and see what others think, but I've been having difficulty finding an appropriate way to rant while also somewhere my players couldn't see. I just finished a campaign and it has been rocky for me to say the least. I feel super unsatisfied with this campaign as a whole, and I've grown really frustrated with half of my group. 7 players total. I've had quite a few issues to the point where I decided to start ending my 2-year campaign because I couldn't deal with it anymore. So most recent frustration, I ran a one-shot campaign until the group could all be together for the final session, and in the middle of my combat, one of my players looks up the monster I'm using and starts shouting, "Oh my god, it has this many hit points, this is the challenge rating," literally while I was in the middle of playing this creature's turn. I just went cold in shock that she actually did this. She even has DM'd before and somehow thought it was okay. I honestly wanted to cancel the session right there. And maybe I shouldn't have called her out right there, but I was so upset that she did something so disrespectful. I ended up getting a message later on from her about how she didn't appreciate being called out in front of everyone and how it hurt her feelings. But honestly, if she hadn't done it in the first place, her feelings wouldn't have been hurt. Yeah, like, look, if it was a new player and they looked up the stat block because no one had ever told them that it's the wrong thing to do, then that would be understandable. But apparently this person had been DMing before, so they should definitely know that looking up monster or enemy's stat block during combat, of all things, it's first of all disrespectful to the DM. Secondly, and possibly most egregious, is that it's considered metagaming, which is a topic that I actually want to make a whole video on, so stick around for that. But yeah, basically doing things outside of the story and outside of your characters just to try and give yourself an edge is in most cases considered metagaming, which is again pretty disrespectful, not just to the DM, but to the other players at the table, you know? And that's really sad, man. Like, it's sad. I don't like hearing stories about players and DMs that are disenfranchised about D&D as a whole because of people like this. It's sad. If you are a DM who doesn't like metagaming, you should consider why. Most of the time it's insecurity about not being smarter than your party members or clever enough to work through obstacles in life. Players should be able to use whatever they have available to gain an advantage over the DM, and if you can't handle that as a DM, you might not be cut out for the role with that playgroup. I don't know if I've ever seen someone so confident in saying something so stupid, putting aside that what they've said here is just like wrong on so many levels. Look, D&D is a pretty subjective game, and sure, at the end of the day, as long as everyone's having fun, you can play it however you want, bend the rules to your whim. But I am going to explicitly say that I think the line "players should be able to use whatever they have available to gain an advantage over the DM" is just so wrong in such a concrete way to ruin the game and pretty much make sure that your DM doesn't come back for another session. When I DM a game, I want my characters, during combat at least, to, you know, give me everything they got within the story. But if at any point I feel like the people around the table are actively metagaming or doing things outside of the story to get at me, to get one over me, to beat me, I'm gonna feel extremely disrespected, and I'm gonna be honestly pretty ticked off that I put all this effort into trying to create a fun experience for them and they're just looking for ways to win. That's not even to mention the whole tone of this comment is so condescending. Most of the time it's insecurity about not being smarter than your party members or clever enough to work through obstacles in life. Fuck off. Put your phone away and leave it until the game ends. I'm gonna hit pause just at the end of that sentence there because I think this is actually a really interesting topic for discussion, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. How do you feel, not just as a DM but as another player, how do you feel about people being on their phones around the table? Because again, from a DM's perspective, I'm kind of two minds here. I understand that the sessions can go for 4 or 5 hours, and expecting that your players just never touch their phones during those 4 or 5 hours, especially as adults who probably need to be checking their phones for work or family or whatever. I understand kind of putting a blanket ban on that is not realistic. However, I have noticed here and there that sometimes one player in particular at my table will start to whip out the phone and start going through it as soon as the focus of the story isn't on his character. If we're doing some character work for one of the other characters, it will just kind of whip out his phone, and I never say anything because you know what, fine, whatever, but it does kind of hurt my feelings a bit. It makes me start questioning, is this thing that I'm going through right now just so boring? But the thing is, every other player at the table seems pretty interested in what's happening, except for that one player. I don't know. I don't really have a hard and fast stance on this. I think it can be pretty disrespectful to the other players and the DM, especially if the DM's giving you some very important information and you're just on your phone. And especially this player has done this a few times. They'll be on their phone during combat as well. When they're waiting for it to come back around to their turn, they'll be on their phone, and then I have to be get their attention, and they come back into it, and then they don't realize that they've got a new condition on them, or that this has happened or that has happened, so they can't do this action or that bonus action. And it's just pay attention, dude, man. Like, come on. Anyway, that'll do it for now. I legitimately think I can't stomach reading any more horror stories, so I'm just gonna leave that with Crow's Perch. But like I said, let me know in the comments below if you've had any terrible experiences with D&D, or maybe you've had a really good experience that stood out for you. Tell me in the comments, and maybe we'll talk about it in another video. Thanks so much for watching. If you love tabletop gaming or D&D as much as I do, then stick around. Plenty more to come. Like I said, I want to do a discussion video on metagaming. I've also got a video planned, which is probably going to take me a bit longer, on Critical Role and the stigma around them and their impact on actual D&D games and the culture. And it's a whole big Critical Role thing. Those are some of the videos I have coming up, so subscribe if you want to see them. Yeah, that'll do it for now, but tell you what, tell your DM that I said you can roll with advantage, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Catch ya.